What's up, Wisconsin? You're listening to Raised in Wisconsin. I'm your host, Joel Kleefisch, sitting alongside Danielle Fairman in the co-pilot seat, riding shotgun. And with us today, Dan Trewicki from SCI, my bro, my partner, a very good friend of mine, and a man I look up to for hunting not only the great state of Wisconsin.
Is it because he's taller than
Wisconsin.
you, or?
Don't be a jerk about it.
You need to raise the bar, Joel.
I'm not a short man, Danielle. Okay?
Who's taller?
Just because I'm fat doesn't mean
You're
I'm short.
Fat.
I'm not very tall, but at least I'm not very skinny. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
So funny. We haven't got you dad
my
joke
God.
yet.
I got jet lag. What do you want? What do you expect from me? I have jet lag.
Jet lag? Oh,
Two
Joe
days
Kleefisch,
ago.
tell me where you were.
2 days ago, my wife and I had our 25th wedding anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, 25th wedding anniversary. Calvin, what do you think about it? Calvin's filling in for Jess, the producer, today. She's a bit under the weather. Calvin, good to have you, brother.
Yeah, it's always good to be here. I'm 26 years old, so happy anniversary.
What are you saying? These guys just called me fat. Now you're calling me old.
Don't say these guys.
Calvin's just calling himself young. He's not calling you old. He's
young.
calling himself
First
Calvin's
of all,
young.
I think that Rebecca is an absolute saint. Absolutely
Well,
a
on Joel
saint.
Day. I'm sorry.
So wait a minute. Now I'm fat, old, and miserable.
No,
right in a
no.
row. Right in a row. Oh my gosh. No, we
You
were
look very nice and green.
now I'm fat, old, and sickly looking. I don't look. You mean my green shirt? Okay.
Yes.
I look tan, don't I?
You look very tan.
You can get tan in the Alps. Let me tell you, you are closer to the sun.
There it is, the Alps. What
We
were you
were
doing
in the Alps. We were in Austria. But I'm going to say, we're going to save that for a minute because I want to get to our weekly Wisco. First off, if you're joining us for the first time, welcome for our loyal listeners. Thank you so much. We really appreciate having you along on the ride on Raised in Wisco, a show that talks about why the great state of Wisconsin is as great as it is and what you can do to bring food from the field to the table and enjoy Wisconsin's great outdoors. It really is the greatest place on earth to be from and to live and to eat. That is what I have learned. Traveling the world and the United States, I have learned Wisconsin really is like the greatest place to eat. We have the most variety and most authentic cultural foods here. It's unbelievable. So that kind of leads me into our weekly Wisco. Now, I've just been here for a day this week. And I had to I woke up at 4:30 and my jet lag had set in. Ooh. So my weekly Wisco is scouting time. If you're a waterfowl hunter, we got the Wisconsin Waterfowl Hunters Expo at the Sunnyview Expo Center in Oshkosh.
7 days, 13 hours, and 22 minutes, if anybody's counting.
Wow. Danielle, that's really good. Holy
Well,
cow.
do you want to know why I am so excited
that?
About this? For one, they have the countdown on their page, so I look at it constantly. But
is this like the early goose season or something? Is that
no. She's talking about until the Waterfowl Hunters Expo.
That's on August 24th. So I said 8 a.m. But that is in Oshkosh at the Sunnyview Expo Center, and we have the first ever women's zone. So for women by women in the corner, we had Connie Markham on the radio last week.
Awesome.
And she did phenomenal explaining it. She put this all together, the women's zone. And that's just why I was super excited because it's the first ever Wisconsin, the women's zone. So
the women's zone at the Wisconsin Waterfowl Hunters Expo is the largest waterfowl hunters expo in the state. Danielle and Danielle, between you and me, we're involved with just about everything at this expo.
Yes.
The Fowl Life is a main sponsor. Jargon Banded. We got a statewide calling contest of which the winner goes to the United States National Calling Contest. The winner of that. Tons of prizes. We're going to be giving out food. I'm doing a cooking demonstration on the main stage. I think I figured I may give a little hint. I may talk about what I'm going to cook because I think I've settled it. And I'm kind of excited about it, but it's going to be a lot of prep work, but I'm jacked about it. It's going to be good. Danielle Fairman is going to be a highlight of the women's zone, the first ever women's zone at the Wisconsin Waterfowl Hunters Expo. Come see us.
Absolutely.
Get there, seek us out. Tell us, hey, I listen to you guys on Raised in Wisco. Feel free to tell us what you love about the show. And if there's something you'd like us to do to have on the show that you think would make it better, tell us that too. We're
Joel,
easygoing
let me
folks.
digress for a second. Is Todd Schaller part of that?
Oh yeah. Todd Schaller rules, man. That guy's That guy's awesome. Former chief warden of the state Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources Wardens Force. He's like huge.
Yeah,
Organizer.
I knew he's a super big waterfowl hunter, and so I mean, I was a cop for 34 years. I worked for the sheriff's department.
You were the sheriff. You were
Okay.
the sheriff.
Yeah, so
You were them.
You were the
it.
sheriff.
but the point of the deal is there's a lot of people around who have sort of a bad view of game wardens.
Oh,
you
yeah.
No
know?
doubt.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, and it is unfortunate. And I just have to say, and I've told this to him personally, Todd Schaller, who was the chief warden, the number one guy, was a guy that I could always call and say, Todd, let me just ask you about the situation. And he is and was such a level-headed,
Reasonable,
good guy, reasonable guy. The state of Wisconsin lost, a wonderful representation of
No
game
doubt.
wardens when Todd retired.
As I feel they lost a wonderful representation of law enforcement when you retired.
Kind
As
of.
the state mourned a state representative when I retired.
Indeed. Todd's a class guy, though. Todd is a class guy.
Todd's great. Class act. See him up there. He's there the whole day as well.
Okay.
George Ermert from the Waterfowl Association.
yeah.
Listen, if you listen to this show and you say these guys are out of their minds with their waterfowl, duck, and goose hunting,
Yes. you're
what's
right.
it about? If you've never done it, if you want to try it for the first time, go to this event. I don't know, it's like $7 to get in or something like that. So it's super cheap. The best callers in the state and even in the country are going to be there. The best dog folks, the best boat, waterfowl hunting boat guys,
The decoys,
best
everybody.
food people, how to prepare wild game
Yep.
and put it on the table. I'm going to be handing out samples. I mean, please come to this event. If you have even the remote interest, you don't even have to have interest in hunting. If your boyfriend or girlfriend says, well, I'd like to learn more about the outdoors, I want to run into Danielle and Joel, talk to them about Raised in Wisco, come to this event
Absolutely.
because you will have a great time. There's a ton of free stuff, ton of prizes to win. And it is so not boring. Like if you're looking for something to do and it's a week before the goose season starts.
There must be a
September
website
1st.
that you can.
Yeah, you can
refer
go to the Wisconsin Waterfowl Hunters Expo. I think you just put
.com.
that
Yep.
.com, and you can check out the website. It's
Yeah,
just
you can go on their Facebook page, buy tickets right there, and it tells you everything that Joel and I are both saying. And you can see Joel right down at the bottom when you scroll down, when you meet the experts.
I have a commercial on there. I'm pretty psyched about. And drive up I-41 because I'm on a billboard.
No, you're
I
not.
I have not been on a billboard since I was at Channel 12.
What are you on the billboard for?
Well, hunting.
Well,
duh.
but for what? What are you?
Chad Belding and I from the Fowl Life are on the billboard. Fowl Life main sponsor of the event.
That is
And We're
awesome.
sitting,
That's cool.
we're sitting in a blind. I haven't been on a billboard since.
Will you be recognized, or will you have like face paint?
No, I don't have face paint. I do have sunglasses on the billboard. I'll pull up. Yeah, I'll pull
I
up.
really
want to
know now.
and show you the billboard. It's pretty cool, but it's a Hunters Expo billboard. So come
Awesome.
see us while you're up there at the Oshkosh Sunnyview Expo Center this Saturday. Meanwhile, make sure you listen to us here on every Civic media station throughout Wisconsin, 13 of them, every major market in Wisconsin. We've got people joining the show every week. It's growing like crazy. We thank you for that. We love having you along for the ride.
Mhm.
Reach out to us on Civic Media. Let us know what you'd like to hear about from Wisconsin, because that's what we're about. And one of the cool things about Wisconsin is that it is the hub of all outdoor activity 24/7 every day of the year. So that brings me back to my weekly Wisco, which was
Full circle.
get your butt out of bed in the morning and scout. Now is the time. If you're a waterfowl hunter, if you're a fall turkey hunter, or a deer hunter, scouting is like, you think, oh, come on, we got a month until opening. Well, I hate to break it to you,
Everybody
folks.
else is doing the same
We're
thing.
like
Get out there and do it.
16 days away from the goose season opening. And that means we're less than 30 days from the turkey and deer season opening.
On the
Mourning
14th.
doves is opening. The bear hunters are already at it up north. That starts this month. So get out there. I was scouting this morning, and I have noticed that I didn't notice there's water in places this year that there was not water.
There's
this year.
so much rain this year.
It's
So
awesome.
much rain.
And there's geese and
Everywhere.
ducks everywhere. And then my buddy called me on the scout trail this morning. He saw a legit albino turkey.
No, he did not.
Yeah, well, there are leucistic turkeys out there, and
Yeah.
there's one kind of in the
It
Sullivan
wasn't
area.
just someone's pet turkey.
It was not. It was not a pet turkey
Mm.
because sometimes wild turkeys, Dan, you've encountered this. You're a huge turkey hunter.
Yeah.
Where they'll interbreed with a domestic turkey,
sure.
and they get
Yeah,
some
yeah.
colors on them, right?
Sort of a mottled look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen one while you're hunting?
Never have.
No. Well, this one's kind of. I think the actual scientific word for it is leucistic. A leucistic turkey lacking in pigmentation. I don't know if it's actually albino, but it's pretty cool. So that's my weekly Wisco. Get out there and scout, knock on the farmers' doors. You're going to find water in fields where you haven't before. That I don't care if there's birds in it when you drive by it or not. If you are in the Lake Country area or any area in the listening area in the state of Wisconsin on the Mississippi Flyway, if you got a pile of water in the middle of a field, you could on any given day throw up a blind and some decoys out and have a chance at shooting birds in Wisconsin because they're looking for those low spots and they love them when they're in the middle of fields, don't they, Danielle?
They do. They absolutely do. And speaking of weekly Wisco, I purchased stuff for the hunting because 25% off is going on with Lucky Duck, and I just bought so much stuff. I'm so happy, so excited.
What did you get?
I got a couple mojos, some dove decoys, remote control dove decoy, bags, Texas rigs, like all the fun things.
Holy cow!
I
You are
know.
into. Well, listen.
I'm excited. Well, this is my first. Okay, so everybody knows I left my ex-boyfriend, but he
Wait, does everybody
I
know
don't
that?
think
They do
everybody
now.
Okay,
knows
well,
that.
They
everybody
do
knows
now.
now they know that I bought the stuff for inside the house. He bought stuff for outside of the house. Therefore, he bought all the decoys and all that kind of stuff. And so when I left him, I have no decoys. I got the dog.
You got Bandit.
I got
You got
the dog.
the better end of that
I
deal.
did. Look at him. He's so handsome.
He's
If he
a
lays
boy.
down.
Yes.
But so I had to go buy some silhouettes, and then I bought a couple dove decoys, a couple mojos, bags, and Texas rigs.
Man, now that you
but-
got that big fancy job, you're just dropping cash like it's no problem, Danielle.
I just
like
bought
to
ladder
see it.
stands at Cabela's.
There
Cabela's
you
ladder
go.
stands are on sale. Like I need any more ladder
Wow,
stands.
that's
It's like
definitely you do not
Right,
need ladder
no.
stand.
But now my weekly Wisco, I'm doing a Whiskey Waters bass tournament tomorrow.
Wow,
I'm
that's
very excited. This
exciting
is my-
out on Okachi Lake.
Exactly. Yep.
How
I'm
fun!
Very excited.
Well, I think that is a great weekly Wisco. I can tell you, I'm going to hit the scout route tomorrow with Woody and Ian Kittrell
Woody.
and Jack Klobuchar. We're going to meet
It's a good
have some
group.
lunch at home and some wild game of some sort on the grill, and we're going to hit the scout route together, and that's always
Just
a
like that.
blast. I cannot wait to tell you guys about my trip to Austria and the
Cannot wait.
weird thing that has two different names, even in Europe.
Oh.
That I hunted and ate while I was there. And that's our recipe segment today. We're going to talk about Wiener Schnitzel. You got to listen. And Lederhosen.
Breathe in the backwoods and let it go.
That's my man. Chase Rice was at Summerfest. Got to go backstage, hang out with him a little bit. He was playing one of the big stages there, and he's just a great guy, but he's awesomely involved in the outdoors. And we're going to get him here on Raised in Wisco, which is what you're listening to. Raised in Wisco on Kelvin.
Remix.
Whoop. It's like one of those rewind moments.
Yep.
Raised in Wisco is your place to learn about the great state of Wisconsin and the outdoors in general and how to best soak what you can out of it. If you're sitting on your couch and you're playing Candy Crush, put it down, folks.
Absolutely.
Put it down. Danielle Fairman, I'm your host, Joel Clay. That's Danielle Fairman. I'm your host, Joel Kleefisch. Raised in Wisco is on 13 stations on your Civic media stations. Find us on Saturdays and Sundays at just Saturdays.
Just Saturdays.
Just find us on Saturdays. Saturdays at 11 a.m. on any Civic media station from Waukesha to Eau Claire to up north to the Racine Kenosha area. Up north. Anywhere up north. Hayward.
Hey.
Wherever you go, Hayward. And so I've got, we talked about our weekly Wiscos, and it's really time to buckle down and get ready for the hunting season because it is upon us. Everybody's kind of shipping back to college and school right now. We got taking my daughter, both my daughters are moving permanently to Texas. One of them's got, my wife and I are dealing with it very differently. she is a wreck, and I have ignored that it's happening. So what's going to happen is
Seems
when
very
it
healthy.
happens, she's going to be much more mentally prepared for it. Well, I don't know if that's true, but when it happens, I'm going to be like curled up like an amoeba in the corner, just shaking. I can tell, because without my kids around, who do think I'm the funniest person alive, which I thrive on, because I know I'm not actually, I'm going to have a really hard time. But it is time to get out there and scout. It's time to make your plans. Your food plots should be planted if you're doing that. Danielle just bought a whole bunch of waterfowl stuff today.
Let's go.
Dan Trowicki, who's our guest from Safari Club International SCI, cohort of mine. We get to work together on the government affairs stuff, which has gone fantastic this past session, and we expect to go in the right direction again, as long as we hold those members of the legislature past this election who support the outdoor causes. And that's been a fun ride. But I got to tell you, I had one of the most incredible experiences of my life.
Yes.
We just got back from Austria. Becky and I, my wife and I, took a trip to Austria for our 25th wedding anniversary.
Sounds perfect.
We spent 3 days in Vienna, and I love artifacts and historical things. And there's stuff in Vienna. The Romans first controlled it. Then it was the Austro-Hungarian Empire with the Habsburgs, who ended up being the kings and queens of Spain and Austria. It was like the hub of Europe. It was unbelievable. But then I got a chance to hunt in the Austrian Alps.
Oh, it has to be absolutely beautiful.
It was
I would not be able
unbelievable.
to. It's like the screensaver on your computer.
It
The
was
pictures that you
unbelievable.
showed me.
And I showed Dan and Danielle, Dan Trowicki and Danielle, I showed them a picture of like in Europe, they take it so seriously. They're like traditions and their hunting clothing. It's insane. So
we need to put this picture that we're talking
well,
about.
that's fine. We can put the picture on the website. Let me try to explain it. In Europe, it's a very prim and proper. Maybe that's not exactly the right word, but it's very specific. They wear very specific clothing, very traditional. They wear lederhosen, okay, which is a handmade pants, short pants, like pants that come just above the knee, and they're made out of the skin of a red stag.
Oh.
And they're hand sewn. And some of these lederhosen, a lot of them that the guides wear are they are made with, they're hand embroidered and hand stitched.
They
they're
are
like
beautiful.
Yeah, they're beautiful. They're like $1,700 to have a custom pair of these made.
What?
It's insane. Yeah, absolutely insane. And then they wear a European hunting hat, a very traditional hat, which is either made of brushed wool or rabbit fur that is shaved down till it is a felt hat. And then they have what's called a Gamsbart in the back of it. And a Gamsbart is an area, a pin you put in the back of the hat. It's so fascinating. This whole stuff is so fascinating.
I did not see that in the picture.
A sprig of the hair of the animal that you harvest.
Oh.
And then that is your way of paying homage to the animal that you harvest. And when you go back to camp, you don't brag about what you did, because the other fellow hunters say, Heidmann's Heil, which means hail to the hunter, because they see that, and then that lets them know you harvested something.
That's wonderful.
Without bragging about it.
I like
very
that.
proper.
Yeah, and isn't it sort of a traditional experience with the animal as well, where when the animal is harvested, a lot of times they'll put the sprig or like the last meal in the animal's mouth. And it's a very, very, very cool traditional honoring the animal.
No doubt about it.
That.
So I was going to get, that's a great point, Dan. And you're right. They call it the last bite, and they have a very high level of respect. And, we've talked on this show a lot about how having respect for an animal and going out there and harvesting your own game is actually, more ethical, or at least as ethical, if not more ethical, harvesting your own, learning how to prepare it to bring it to the table as an animal that was grown in a cage, killed in a cage for you to buy and make food out of. Right. And so to be perfectly clear about it, they have a very high level of respect for the animal they're hunting. So when you hunt an animal, you and harvest that animal. They give the animal its last meal. It's called the last bite. So you're never allowed to take a photograph or anything with the animal that does not at least have a sprig, usually a pine bough, because that's what was in the Alps, in their mouth. And then you take a piece of that bough and put it on the right side of your hat. And that also shows that you are one with the animal that you're taking, and it is going to feed you.
that.
And then you have this in the side of your hat. And then they have the Gamsbart. And it's called a Gamsbart because what we hunted was called a Gamsbuck, not to be confused with what they hunt in South Africa called, or Africa called a Gemsbok, which is a totally different type of antelope. This is a goat from the mountains. Gamsbuck is what they call it. And we've got an amazing recipe coming up. And I'm on talk about this. There's so much to talk about. It's fascinating. But so you put that sprig in, and there is the hunt itself is conducted differently. First of all, they don't wear camouflage, okay? Because there's this mentality that you don't need, you are good if you can fool Mother Nature to get close enough to harvest the animal without being part of the landscape. It's like almost, you don't want to give yourself too much of an advantage while you're hunting them.
Did they allow you to wear camouflage?
They did allow it, and I did wear camouflage because that's all I brought along. But I got to tell you, when I hunt Europe again, I'm going to wear traditional hunting clothing from Europe because it's really, really cool aspect of it. And I cannot wait. You're going to freak out when you hear about how my hunt went down, because I thought I was going to die on the side of the mountain because the hills would
At least it's pretty out there.
the hills would have been dead in The Sound of Music if I would have had to take many more steps up. It's crazy. Raised in Wisco. Woo! This is it on your Civic media stations throughout Wisconsin. Listen to us Saturdays at 11 o'clock. And you will get to know everything you care to learn about how to cook, hunt, fish, kayak, mountain bike. Danielle's video camera. You messed it up, Danielle.
I went to go pet my dog and it followed me, but it didn't follow me back up.
It didn't follow you back up. It's stuck on Bandit the dog.
No.
And
it feels like Wally.
It does. It looks like Wally. We're talking about the fantastic hunt that I had in Austria, in the Austrian Alps. So now, if you know me, I make a lot of fun of myself for being like fat and out of shape. But the fact is, I'm now just regular fat.
Oh,
I used to be like super fat. Dan, you knew me when I was super fat, didn't you?
You were never super fat.
I weighed 310 pounds, Dan.
310 pounds?
Yeah, I was super fat.
Edging towards that, but never actually super fat.
Well, that was when I had the come to Jesus meeting with my doctor and said I better do something. That was back when I quit drinking 14 years ago, and I started getting myself in healthier shape. I hope if you're watching us online, you're living through the earthquake that is happening while we're trying to fix Danielle's camera here. There we go.
Good job, Calvin.
Good enough. Way to go,
Yay,
Calvin. 3 cheers for Calvin.
Whoop, whoop.
And
thank you.
And I trained at my level. Now I'm 53 years old, so I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I trained at my level, running and jogging, walking, and working out to get ready to hunt in the Austrian Alps. This is not an easy go. This is not a gimme.
No. It
So
we
started. We drove to about 5,000 feet above sea level. Now, that the air's thinner there to begin with. Now, most people don't have, alpine sickness or elevation sickness at that point. But then the guide gets out and he's got, his calves look like footballs each, right? He's 60 years old.
And you can see it in the Lederhosen.
In the Lederhosen. He's got, and we'll talk about how funny all the words are in Austria. Everything's like Lederhosen, Wiener Schnitzel, ja. Und wir going to eat Wiener Schnitzel in a Lederhosen, ja.
Please tell me you were not doing that there.
Oh, for sure. And I was fake yodeling.
Oh,
it was,
no.
Oh, it was fun.
Yeah.
And every word is like got the word wiener in it, or hosen or schnitzel, or like come on. Like the word for road is like, or stop or exit is one of the roads is like Einfahrt.
Yep. That sounds great.
It's a very guttural language. And so So we get out and we're climbing, we're scaling, we're literally, mountain climbing, alpine mountain climbing. And he looks and he's like, wait, we get there. He had a very thick, we get there. And so I'm thinking, all right, I'm set. This is what I trained for. I'm getting ready to do this. Let's go. And like a half hour in, we progressed probably 500 feet higher. A half hour after that, we're another 500 feet. So now we're at 6,500. Then we're at 7,000. I am sweating. It's like 60 degrees. It's cool mountain air. I'm struggling, like breathing enough oxygen is really hard.
What are you carrying with you?
Well, I was wearing long pants and a long shirt and, a gun and a backpack with water, just water. Cause I'm stopping every 20 yards drinking water. And I'm thinking one of two things is going to happen here. I will die on this mountain or I will have one of the greatest hunts of my life.
Either or.
And
one or the other.
Sometimes, Dan, you've been to this place, but you've been to this place in your mind before. Dan runs Ironman triathlons. You've been to that place where you think this is either going to be the end or something I celebrate the rest of my life. You've been on hunts like that too.
They're tough hunts, no doubt about it.
And I'm thinking to myself, and I couldn't do 1/20th, 1/100th of what Dan could do or Danielle, what you could do, frankly. And I'm thinking to myself, I have nothing left. I can't hardly breathe. Like I'm breathing as hard as I can. My heart rate's at like 160. And
right.
I'm going up the side of the mountain where the air is thinner. My legs are done. My joints are sore. My cardiovascular is not keeping up. And I say to him, how much more? I said to him, how much more?
Can you see the animal at this
point?
No.
No, we're in the pines, in the tree line at like around 7,000
There's no
feet.
light at the end of the tunnel. You have no idea.
And he's just a little bit more, he's saying. And I'm going, okay, please. So another 15 minutes later, and I'm stopping every 20 yards and he's looking back at me a little bit more. So all of a sudden we stop and we're above the tree line.
Oh.
We're above the pine line and you see these limestone outcroppings on the crests of the mountain. And I put my binoculars up to my eyes and I start seeing these gamsbuck or chamois on the rock edges. And you say to yourself, holy cow, if I had not done that, if I had not just put myself through hell, I would never have seen this. How many people get to see this in their lifetime? And the one I'm looking at is, I said, okay, I ranged it. It's 400, yards, 400 plus yards. And he's looking at me like trying to determine, is this crazy American a good shot or not? How comfortable you feel? I said, how accurate's the gun? And he came over and he clicked it. And it made me nervous because he clicked the turret like dig, 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 dig. And then he looked up at it again and he looked back and he went dig, dig back a couple. And I'm thinking, he has no idea like how this gun's gonna shoot. I went prone on the ground on the backpack and I watched it drop and it dropped like off a cliff.
Oh my goodness.
And I looked to him and I'm like,
ground meat.
We go get it? And he's like, he laughs. He's like, no, 3-4 hours just to get there.
Oh no.
So then I'm hunting with a friend of mine, Ken Kindler, and there's another one comes out 250 yards away, like half the distance. And it's beautiful, huge, beautiful. And so he puts a shot on that and it goes down and it's down a valley and up the side, but it's in a grassy area. I didn't fall anywhere. And so he says, Joel, he looks at me and I must have looked like I was about to die because he says, you stay here. You stay here, mister. So Rudolph, our guide, and Ken go. 2 hours later, they come back. Just 250 yards.
And what
took
time
them
of the
2
day
hours.
is this?
It's getting dark.
Oh no.
And we're in the Alps. It's getting dark. And they come back and Rudolph's got the gamsbuck in a backpack on his back.
Aww.
He did this all with it on his back.
Of course
was this now yours or Ken's?
This was Ken's.
Okay.
So I said, okay, now I'm very nervous because anytime Dan can tell you, and Danielle, you know this, anytime you shoot a deer or an animal and you don't retrieve it, you don't, see it right away. It's dead out of it, you're putting it out of its misery.
Yep.
It's a very nerve-wracking feeling. And so he's like, we go back tomorrow. And I'm like, all right, what time are we getting up to go there? He's like, he looks at me, he's like, you never make it. You never make it. He,
All
and
right,
I'm like,
insult.
okay, I'll sleep in. And they went, and it took 5 hours. They had to have climbing equipment, rappelling equipment. They had to
No.
rappel down the rock face of this thing, gut it, hook it up,
But
put it in his backpack.
He did tell you to shoot that one, right?
Yes. No, he did. Yes. Yeah. He said, if you feel comfortable, shoot it. I don't think he thought I'd ever hit it. And it was a perfect ethical shot right through the boiler room. You know, it was dead immediately. And it was such an incredible experience. The next day, he texted me on the phone, meet me in the parking lot, and they had the animal to take pictures. He brought the sprigs of green down for the last bite.
That's
and
wonderful.
one to put in my hat, and it was and talked, and we took pictures, and he had her. And since then, like now I bought the European hunting hat. I bought lederhosen.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, Joel, I was
Do
going to
you have
say
a
too.
pair?
No, I do
Oh.
not. Although I have gone to Bavarian like parties at times when I've borrowed lederhosen.
You borrowed the
Right,
leader
right.
hose.
But
That's
you
a
know,
fun
for
word.
listeners who may not know, a chamois or chamois, probably like an 80-pound animal
Yes,
or so. I mean,
sure.
they're not big.
They're not
so,
huge.
So when you say you're putting them in a backpack, you know, I don't want people to think it's like a
Like
a
an
red
elk.
stag or
Yeah.
an elk or
No,
something.
no,
Yeah.
no, no, no.
Yeah, I mean, they're
it's
beautiful alpine animals, but probably around 80
60,
pounds.
60, 80
to
pounds,
yeah.
probably.
Beautiful markings, beautiful.
I mean, they are just incredibly unique. Look it up, CHAMOIS or GAMSBOK. That's how they spell it in the different countries. And then we had the tenderloins from it, and we were going to cook with it, which I'm
Ooh.
super excited to talk about because and we go back, and at this point, I can't tell you, I was so exhausted, so beyond exhausted. Even the next day, it seemed surreal to me. But I thought to myself, had I never had the guts to try this experience, to get out there and push my limits, what it did for me, being able to accomplish that hike through the Alpine mountains, and get to that elevation where breathing was, much harder because of the less oxygen in the air, and then accomplishing, getting this animal that I was now going to be able to eat. It gave me this bizarre, like, confidence in life, really.
You
Like,
haven't experienced with all the other hunts that you have been on?
I have experienced that before, but I never pressed my body physically to this limit before.
Oh, all right.
And Ken, the guy I'm with, he's a former Army dude, and he's used to like
This was a
grueling
walk in the park
physical
for
events.
him?
No, that's how I knew it was actually.
yep.
That's how I knew it was actually a good workout, because he came back. He's like, that was one of the toughest hunts I've ever been on.
Oh,
And for him
wow.
to say that,
And then
Yeah.
for you to do
meant
that?
no,
Oh,
no.
absolutely.
Trewicki would have been like, yeah, that was all right.
That's my Sunday
was all right.
afternoon.
That's my
No,
Sunday
those are
afternoon.
tough hunts. Those are tough hunts. They are.
But do you know what do you guys know what I'm talking about when you have that hunt? And I'm not saying it's unique to that hunt, because I think that experience, that kind of confidence and self-growth and personal growth and awareness of yourself happens every hunt to
Mhm.
some extent.
It does, and not necessarily just on a hunt, like on any physical activity or whatever you're doing, even mentally sometimes, when you push yourself to the limits of what you have and you realize you have absolutely nothing left. It's a very humbling experience, but it's a growing experience, because you're better because of it mentally, you're better because of it physically. And you realize, they always say, especially in physical effort, when you think you're done, when you think you're absolutely done, you still have 40% left.
Yes.
You just have to
Really?
mentally
Get
reach
through
for
it.
it.
This
It's
has got to
there.
be an Iron Man thing. You're pulling
Yeah, it's
out for
there.
us
You
there.
just have to dig for it.
The only
It's
way
there.
I have to experience that is I have definitely not done the Ironman, but I have done Tough Mudder. That's 12
yeah.
miles
Yep.
Wow,
with
that's
12
impressive.
obstacles in between.
That is very impressive.
And the things that they had us do, I'm like, there's no way I can do this. There's no way I can run 12 miles with muddy boots through all these obstacles, ice baths, jumping off cliffs. Like, jeez.
And I
But I
think
did it.
and that's an incredible experience. And I mean, literally, there have been times where I've gone hunting with a group of people, and you have 150 pounds of decoys on your back, and you
Yeah.
got to get 250 yards into the cornfield
Mhm.
and set up, and then pack out with 3 or 5 geese on your back that you feel that same way when you're done.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
one morning. And what that does for me now, I'm a person, I've got a certain level of anxiety. I've got anxiety about things in life. And I'm telling you, the more you do things like this, the more your self-confidence of what you can actually accomplish grows. I have, there was a time in my life where I couldn't row. I was rowing. I was a legislator at the time. I was rowing down a Wisconsin river, and I got overheated and got heat exhaustion, nearly heat stroke, and had to be raced to the hospital
Oh,
and put
wow.
on to IVs. This is when I was in my worst shape of my life, drinking more than I should have.
Hmm.
And my brain still very often goes to that moment. And these moments in life let me know that my physical ability and my mind can take me further than it used to be able to take me.
No
And
doubt.
there is nothing more satisfying than doing that.
Yep. No, absolutely no doubt about it.
Yeah. And I can't wait to we're going to talk about chamois or Gamsbach Wiener Schnitzel and a couple weird words. And we're going to talk with Dan about the fact that SCI can help you in Wisconsin. Is one of the best places to be from if you want to travel somewhere else on your vacation. Get out there and adventure. This is Raised in Wisco.
Well, me and my lady had our first big fight, so I drove her
You're
right
listening to
to
Raised in
the
Wisco on your
line.
Civic media station Saturdays at 11 a.m. I'm your host, Joel Kleefisch. Danielle Fairman
Hello.
is riding shotgun, and we are talking about some really exciting stuff. The hunt
The
I
good
got to
stuff,
have.
like Kenny Chesney.
The good stuff. I got to experience the Austrian Alps with my wife on our 25th wedding anniversary. I had a hunt of a lifetime there, climbing the Alps, testing my body to its limits, putting a perfectly great shot on an animal. And Dan Trewicki's been here with us. He works for SCI. I work with him for SCI. If you live in Wisconsin, you really have one of the premier places to learn about how to experience hunting and culture of other places, not only in the state, but in the rest of the country and the rest of the world.
Oh, for sure. For sure. 100%.
I mean, Dan, your experience resume of hunting spans the world. And a lot of it is is it not, because of your association with SCI?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you learn so much about different places and different things from the relationships that you have there. I'll give you a classic example. Now, in Wisconsin, we've got like 5 chapters. So we have the Wisconsin chapter out of Milwaukee area, the Bow chapter that we're a part of, which is sort of in Pewaukee. Madison Badgerland has a chapter. Green Bay Northeast has a chapter, and Lake Superior has a chapter. So they all have their banquets. But my daughter and my daughter's 30, lives in Madison. And so we've always hunted together. And through Safari Club, we knew a ton of people that had gone to Argentina on a big game hunt.
Nice.
And so this is something that comes up on auction. We have big auctions Friday and Saturday at our banquets. So, I mean, when you think of big game hunting, I bought this hunt on auction for $3,000.
$3,000.
And that
I could do
included
that.
6 days of hunting,
Yes,
all
please.
your food,
Yes,
all your
please.
lodging, guide service, and a red stag of any size.
Wow.
No, really?
Wow.
In the
Sign me up.
world,
Let's
in
go.
the world of big game hunting,
Woo.
that is a screaming deal. But the most important part, I knew 20 guys that have been on this hunt. Everybody said it's a fantastic hunt. So I didn't even hunt. I bought the hunt for my daughter. I carried her gun around. She shot a really nice red stag. We had a phenomenal experience. We spent 3 days in Buenos Aires afterwards visiting,
Cool.
and it was all
Don't
because
cry
of
for
Safari
me,
Club.
Argentina.
It was a super
exactly
cool
what I was gonna say.
experience. No, it wasn't. Yeah. But it's because of Safari Club and those relationships that you can go to all these banquets throughout the state and find out. That's the most difficult part
How
about.
often are these banquets?
So the big banquets are typically in late winter, early spring, February, March.
And
kind
those
of
are the
thing.
ones you can do the auction.
Anybody
Yeah.
can go. And the Wisconsin chapter of the SCI has a yearly banquet right in Brookfield, a 2-day event
Yeah,
in
if
Brookfield.
you just go on the website, if you Google SCI Safari Club International Wisconsin or Badgerland or Green Bay, you'll get all the information. But it's that networking. Because one of the most difficult things about big game hunting is knowing where to go.
100%.
Yeah, because we all know people, and in some cases, I've had a situation where we had just horrible hunts, just
Oh,
bad representation, bad
Sure.
guides,
Not
bad
everything's
everything,
going to be great.
But you can shortcut a lot of that by networking and actually talking to the people that have been on these great hunts.
You can talk to people who've already done it. I mean, I want to be really clear about this. This is not just for hunters, because we were at a banquet a couple years ago, and there was a couple at our table, and the guy was just getting into hunting, and his wife
yay.
was with him, and she was not interested in hunting whatsoever, and she ended up bidding on she bid on the wrong hunt. She bid on a hunt because she thought it was going to go to Croatia. Instead, it was going, she thought it was going to go to Germany. Ended up it was a hunt in Croatia, and so they bid on it, and they ended up getting like a $3,000 hunt for like $350.
Right.
No joke.
Right.
And so we saw them the next year, and she said, "Who cares about hunting? We stayed in a castle."
Right?
They stayed in a castle in Croatia for $350 for the whole week. She didn't want to hunt. She didn't care about hunting. She stayed in a castle in Croatia. Her husband got to hunt 1 or 2 days. She had the vacation of her life
Yep.
for pennies on the dollar.
Right.
And it was one of the greatest, she said it was one of the greatest experiences of my life that I never would have had if it weren't for taking a chance, taking a risk, pressing the yes button and doing
You
it.
should do that every single day of your life.
And Danielle, I love the fact that you're going to press the yes button. You're going to head to South Africa with the
Woo!
Wiki. That's
Yep.
going to
High
be
five.
awfully
Yep.
exciting.
I'm so
I'm
excited.
a little jealous. I might look at those dates and try to hang on to your coattails.
Well,
on
that's
that
our
too,
birthday
'cause
month, so
It is.
that's my birthday present
it
to
is.
myself.
It's well deserved. You've been working your tail end off, and it's awesome to see you. You're going to come back from that, and you're going to have a different look and outlook on life.
And that's a classic example of no brainer. Like, I've been to this camp so many times. You've been to the camp.
Oh,
I've
it's a
sent so
classic
many
no-brainer.
people. It's just like
Johnny Fetting and
Yeah.
Johnny Fetting Safaris. I went 3 times within 2 years because it was so amazing. We got to get to the recipe.
Oh no! Wow.
We have to get to the recipe.
have
So
arrived.
in Vienna, everything hot dog is called a wiener, right? Well, in Vienna, Vienne is the word for Vienna, Wiener. So the hot dog was invented in Vienna. Wiener Schnitzel, schnitzel from Vienna, Wiener Schnitzel. Get it?
Yeah.
So I thought, we hunted this chamois. I thought we need to make Wiener Schnitzel out of it. Chamois Wiener Schnitzel.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you, I discovered one of the greatest recipes that you can use with any meat on earth.
Ooh, do tell.
You
Do
take
tell.
any tenderloin and you cut it as thin as you can right off the bat.
Okay.
Take your favorite seasoning. I used Provider Crosshairs. Take your favorite
So
seasoning,
delicious.
mix it with flour. Do not egg coat your meat. Take your thin slices of meat and coat it in and dip it in the flour and seasoning and fry it on both sides.
like
Literally a
bacon.
minute on each side. Literally a minute. And squeeze lemon juice over the top of it. It's
Lemon
to
juice.
die for. It's paper thin Wiener Schnitzel. We're going to have the link on the website of the recipe of the cooking segment to take a look at it. Don't be afraid of it home. You can use wild game. You can use store purchase meat. You cut it as thin as you can across the grain.
you don't have to go to the Alps and
You don't
shoot a
have
chamois
to.
to get
No, but it sure is
real
awesome.
Wiener Schnitzel.
It was
Okay.
so delicious. I'm telling you, it was so delicious. But you can do it with any meat. But the Gamsbach or the chamois that we used to cook it was the most tender wild game, the most tender meat I think I've ever had.
And you use the back tenderloins.
We
or
used the
back?
tenderloin, the back
They must-
straps. We used the back straps.
They must have
Dan.
been tiny.
Dan's differentiating between back straps
They must have been
and
little.
tenderloins. We call,
Very
I
little.
mean, most people, in Wisconsin call the back straps tenderloin. They're interchangeable. Absolutely delicious. We love having you along on
Yes,
Raised in
we
Wisco
do.
on your civic media stations throughout the state. We'll see you next week on Raised in Wisco.
Bye.